Nothing is cheap at all in gold mining. The sluice boxes were around $5,000 each. So it's good to see them being put to use instead of just sitting there getting rusty.
Imagine buying a gold mine for nearly $500,000, only to discover it's a total bust. That was the nightmare for single dad Travis on a forgotten island in Alaska. His equipment was failing, his dream was dying, and his money was gone. He needed a miracle. That miracle had a name: Freddy Dodge and his right-hand man, Juan Ibarra. The island of lost dreams. Deep in the wilds of southeast Alaska lies a place the locals call Porcupine Island. It's not on most maps. You see, this island is known for its sudden, blinding fogs and a peculiar magnetic rock that makes compasses spin like crazy.
Great to run this plant for the first time. Been sitting in the field for a couple of years. I never ever thought it would come together.
Legends say the island itself doesn't want to be found. It's a land of ancient Sitka spruce trees so tall they seem to scratch the sky in a silence so deep it feels heavy. This is where a single dad named Travis decided to risk it all. Travis wasn't some big-time mining boss. Truth be told, he was a regular guy, a father who wanted to build a future for his kids. He saved up every penny he had. He worked 2 jobs for years. Then he poured his entire life savings, a staggering $475,000, into buying this remote gold claim. He bought the land and all the mining equipment that came with it. It looked like the perfect setup. The previous owners told him it was rich with gold. It was supposed to be his ticket to a better life, a legacy for his family.
It's really awful good. It makes me more confident that we can get to our 25-ounce gold.
But Porcupine Island holds its secrets tight. The ground here is a mix of hard slate and sticky blue clay, a miner's worst nightmare. The weather can turn in an instant. One moment it's sunny, the next, freezing rain is lashing down, turning everything to slick mud. Travis found out the hard way that this land doesn't give up its treasure easily. He was running his wash plant day after day, feeding it scoop after scoop of that tough dirt. He was burning fuel, time, and money. The problem was terrifyingly simple. The gold was disappearing. He could see it in his test pans. There was fine gold in the dirt, lots of it, but when he checked his sluice boxes at the end of the day, they were almost empty.
You're gonna have to go to that bigger plant.
Yeah.
But in order for that to happen,
Yeah.
there's quite a bit we got to do.
A lot of cost involved in it. With motors, pumps, the steel, we've got a rough estimate of about $14,000 just in material.
The machine was supposed to be catching the treasure. Instead, it was letting the gold wash right out the back with all the worthless rock and mud. He was catching maybe 30% of the gold. That's a failing mine, plain and simple. Every day he operated, he was just digging a deeper hole of debt. His dream was turning into a disaster. With his savings gone and his hopes fading, Travis knew he was at the end of his rope. He was a single father alone on a remote island with a $500,000 problem. He couldn't fix it himself. He needed help from the best in the business. So he made the call. He reached out to Freddy Dodge and Juan Ibarra, the legendary gold gurus. It was a long shot, a desperate plea. He knew they were his last and only hope to save his family's future from being washed away. Now everything depended on whether 2 legends could conquer an island that seemed determined to make every man who touched it fail.
We've got our 2 professors there teaching us what gold mining is.
The sound of the float plane's engines echoed across the misty bay as Freddy and Juan touched down. Stepping onto the floating dock, they could immediately feel the unique chill of Porcupine Island. It wasn't just the cold air. It was the heavy quiet of the place. Travis was there to meet them. You could see the stress etched on his face. He was a man running on fumes in desperation. He led them up the muddy track to his mining operation. The site was a clearing carved out of the dense forest, surrounded by those giant spruce trees. In the middle of the clearing stood the heart of the problem, the wash plant. It was a big blue machine, a trommel-style plant. A trommel is basically a long, rotating metal tube with a screen. The idea is simple. You dump the dirt in one end, water sprays inside. The spinning action and the water are supposed to break the dirt apart. The smaller rocks and gold fall through the screen onto the sluice boxes below.
Definitely faster to refurbish half this sluice box than to build a whole new one. I'm going to put all new angle clips in. because you see how this one's already bent up?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's just welded on the top, so once you use a wedge on this 3 or 4 times, it's gonna snap them off. So we need 14 of these.
The bigger, worthless rocks travel out the end of the tube. It's a common design, but as Freddy says, the devil is always in the details. Freddy Dodge has a kind of sixth sense for gold mining machinery. He's been doing this his whole life. He can just look at a machine and feel what's wrong. And as he walked up to Travis's plant, his eyes narrowed. He didn't even need to see it run. He saw the problem right away. The angle was all wrong. The whole plant was tilted way too steeply. Travis had it set at a severe downhill angle, thinking that would help wash the material through faster. But Freddy knew that was a huge mistake. He explained it to Travis in simple terms. With an angle that steep, the water and rocks are moving way too fast. They're basically flying through the machine. The gold, which is heavy, never gets a chance to settle. It's supposed to drop out of the flow and get caught in the riffles of the sluice box. Instead, it was just hydroplaning right over the top of them, carried away by the torrent of water. It was like trying to catch a baseball thrown at 100 miles per hour. Juan Ibarra, the master fabricator and mechanic, got to work inspecting the machine's bones.
I can't believe how much gold is in that sucker.
Look at this. Just on the carpet, you see that? And it's real fine stuff.
Man, I sure didn't expect to see that much.
Surprising, huh?
He's the guy who can build or fix anything. He noticed more problems. The spray bars inside the trommel were a mess. Some nozzles were clogged. Others were spraying in the wrong direction. They weren't creating the steady shower needed to break down that sticky blue clay. Instead, they were just creating channels of water that let big clumps of clay slide through untouched, with all the gold still trapped inside them. They were facing a double disaster. The angle was too steep, and the water pressure was a mess. Travis was losing gold in 2 different ways at the same time. Freddy did a quick test pan of the tailings, the waste material coming out the back of the machine. His pan lit up with fine gold. It was a heartbreaking sight. Travis had been throwing away a fortune every single day. Freddy looked at Travis and said the words no miner ever wants to hear. Your plant isn't working at all. It's just a big, expensive, gold-flinging machine. The diagnosis was grim, but now they had a plan. They had to fix the angle, and they had to fix the water. It sounded simple enough, but on a remote island with limited tools and time, even simple fixes can become giant monsters. The race against time. With only 7 days to turn things around, Freddy and Juan didn't waste a second. The first job was the biggest one, changing the angle of that massive wash plant. This wasn't a simple tweak. The entire 20,000-pound machine had to be lifted and repositioned. On a normal site, you'd use a crane. But on Porcupine Island, there was no crane. There was just Travis's excavator and their own ingenuity. This was where Juan's skills really shone. He directed Travis in the excavator with pinpoint precision. It was a tense and dangerous dance of man and machine. They had to lift the front end of the plant. Then they had to dig out the ground underneath it. The goal was to lower the front end, creating a much shallower slope. Freddy wanted the angle to be just 2 degrees. That's a tiny tilt, barely noticeable to the naked eye. But in the world of gold recovery, that small change makes all the difference. It would slow the water down just enough to let that heavy gold drop and get caught. While Juan and Travis wrestled with the giant machine, Freddy tackled the water problem. He ripped out the old spray bars. They were beyond repair.
This wash plant was a complete unknown. We didn't know how it was really going to run, but it's going great. Nothing's holding us up.
He had a plan to build a whole new system. He needed to create what he called a curtain of water. He wanted a solid wall of spray that would hit every single piece of dirt that entered the trommel. This would blast apart that sticky blue clay and liberate every flake of gold. But building something new on a remote island is a huge challenge. You can't just run to the hardware store. Every nut, every bolt, every piece of pipe has to be scavenged or adapted from what you have on hand. Freddy and Juan had brought some supplies, but they were limited. They started digging through Travis's scrap pile, a treasure trove of old forgotten metal. They found old pipes and fittings. Juan fired up his welder, his face lit by the bright blue flame. He began cutting and fitting the pieces together like a master puzzle solver. The hours turned into days. The work was grueling. The Alaskan air was cold, and the mud was everywhere. They worked from sunrise to sunset, fueled by coffee and a shared determination. Travis worked alongside them. For the first time in months, he had a glimmer of hope. He was learning from the masters, watching them transform his broken-down operation. He saw how they approached every problem with calm confidence. It wasn't just about fixing the machine. It was about adopting a whole new mindset.
We just cut the grates out for the jig right now. The grates that he has, they're made out of wood and they're all rutted out. So by doing this, ultimately it's going to help with his gold recovery. So we'll get them welded up and get them down there and get them installed.
By the end of day 3, the new spray bar system was taking shape. It was a work of art built from scrap. Juan had even added a special feature, a high-pressure nozzle at the very end of the trommel. Freddy called it the nugget catcher. It was designed to give one final blast to any larger rocks, just in case they were hiding a small nugget. It was this attention to detail that separates the pros from the amateurs. They weren't just fixing the main problem. They were thinking about every possible way to lose gold and stopping it. With the machine leveled and the new water system almost ready, the team was feeling good. But Porcupine Island had another nasty surprise waiting for them, hidden deep within the guts of the machine. With the trommel's angle corrected and the new spray bars ready to be installed, it was time to fix the final part of the system, the sluice boxes. The sluice box is where the money is made. It's the last line of defense in catching gold. Freddy peered into the long, green troughs, and his good mood vanished. He saw something terribly wrong. The sluice boxes were lined with something called miner's moss, and, over that, a metal screen called expanded metal. This setup is supposed to create little turbulent pockets of water that trap the gold.
Juan's up there building that new sluice box for this area right now. I think he got the easy job. Me and Mike got the hard job.
But Travis's setup was a disaster. The expanded metal was the wrong type. The openings were too large and the metal was raised too high off the moss. Instead of creating gentle turbulence, it was creating a smooth ramp. The fine gold was just skiing right over the top. To make matters worse, it was installed incorrectly. The leading edges were facing the wrong way. It was actively helping the water push the gold out of the box. It was another classic rookie mistake, one that was costing Travis dearly. This was a critical flaw. They could have the perfect angle and the perfect water pressure, but if the sluice boxes weren't right, they would still lose most of the gold. Once again, they had to improvise. They didn't have new expanded metal. They couldn't just order it. It would take weeks to arrive. They had to make what they had work. Freddy made a bold decision. They were going to rip it all out and reinstall it piece by piece. It was tedious, frustrating work. They had to pull up hundreds of square feet of the heavy metal screen. They cleaned out all the packed-in gravel and mud from the miner's moss. Then they began the painstaking process of putting it back. This time, they did it Freddy's way. They flipped the expanded metal over so the correct edge was leading into the flow. Then they had to find a way to make it sit lower, creating the right kind of riffle.
Well, it's gonna be sad to see that old girl go, but out with the old, in with the new.
Juan, the master fabricator, came up with an ingenious solution. He used dozens of small metal clips, which he had to make by hand, to hold the screen down tight against the moss. It took hours. Every clip had to be measured and bent perfectly. It was a slow and painful process, but they knew it was essential. As they worked, the ever-present Alaskan weather turned against them. A cold, biting wind swept through the clearing, and a steady drizzle began to fall. The mud got thicker, the tools got slippery, and their hands grew numb. Travis watched them work with a sense of awe. He had installed that metal himself, following the instructions he'd found online. He thought he had done it right. Now he was seeing the difference that experience makes. Freddy and Juan weren't just mechanics. They were scientists of gold recovery. They understood the physics of water flow and the behavior of gold in a way that can only be learned through decades of trial and error. After another long day of hard labor, it was done. The sluice boxes were rebuilt. The new spray bars were installed. The machine was level. Every part of the system had been re-engineered. Their 7 days were almost up. The moment of truth had arrived. It was time to run some dirt. It was time to see if their week of blood, sweat, and ingenuity had actually worked, or if Travis's $500,000 dream was truly lost for good. They saved his mind, but was it right for two experts to make it look so easy after he struggled for so long? Like and subscribe for more incredible gold stories.